the question is how do you understand time? Now, think about it this way. Everything you understand through your brain and your body. All concepts are physical, etc. How do you don't perceive time? There's nothing in your body that is a time, perceives time. There's nothing in your brain that perceives time. So how do you get time at all? Now, we know that we have metaphors for time in terms of space, and we'll go back over those. But how does your brain create time? Because it isn't there, just, to be perceived. The answer is very interesting. There is what is the best hypothesis right now is called the 40 Hertz cycle hypothesis. And every 41 thousandths of a second, there is a pulse that goes from your brainstem, spreads throughout your brain, and it's a regular pulse. And what it does is it kind of times other things. It times your breathing, times your heartbeat rate, allows you to time actions, for example. And by timing, what that means is that you are relating an event, which is like picking up a book or taking a drink of water. You're relating that to bursts of the 40 Hertz cycle, which are repeated regularly. And if you think about the measurement of time, that's how it's always done. You can measure it in terms of days, the sun goes across the sky. You can measure it in terms of a water clock where we have regular drips. Right now we do it in terms of cesium atoms, where you have the regular pulsing of cesium coming out of that to measure time. But what it does is create time, which is what's more interesting. Our brains and our bodies register events. We do things. Our bodies do things. Our brains do things. What you're doing in time is comparing some event with some regular iterated cycles. And that creates a notion of how much time it is. Time can be measured now in terms of certain kinds of cycles that are occurring in your brain and your body. That's your intuitive notion of time. Then you create things outside that are regular cycles in terms of measuring time. So time, what's interesting about it is that this is something that we have to create, cognitively. Our brains do it, and our brains do it automatically. Now, the metaphors for time are interesting because they are in terms of space and in terms of objects. So we saw that throughout the world you get time is a moving object, so the time will come, the time is long since gone. You have things like the flow of time, the passage of time. You have things like Tuesday follows Monday. Here's Monday, it's coming. Monday's here now, Tuesday's the next day. Now it's Tuesday, Monday is past, and so on. So you have that metaphor for time. You also have the metaphor for time as a linear dimension that you walk along, something on the ground. So you can do things on time in a certain amount of time. And so you get ambiguities of these two metaphors. You get either Christmas is coming up on us or we're coming up on Christmas. Okay? You get both of them. And as you've seen, you get ambiguities. If you have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday and you say, move the meeting ahead 2 days, is it going to be Monday or Friday? Depends on the metaphor. And as we pointed out, Lera Boroditsky's experiments have shown that depending upon whether you're seeing something coming towards you or experiencing yourself moving, you will prime one or another of those metaphors. So those are metaphors for that. Now, we also have in this culture the metaphor that the future is ahead and the past is behind. Let's put it all behind us, let's look ahead to something, and so on. That's not universal. The other two metaphors tend to be the same around the world. There are languages where the past is in front of us and the future is behind. But it is universal that you understand time in terms of space. And that time is created in terms of events. Now, there's an interesting book called A Brief History of Time. if you take the fact that the Big Bang occurred and you get evidence from radiation moving outward in one direction only, what that suggests is that if you trace back where that radiation began, to a Big Bang, you get all the matter of the universe starts to get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed into a very small space. And there is a point at which the laws of physics break down. Now, he assumes that time, as defined in the laws of physics, is what time really is. If the laws of physics break down, then time doesn't exist. So when the laws of physics are, quote, created, when there's enough of a spread, he says that's when time comes into existence. And then what he does, he estimates how much time after the Big Bang that was, which makes no sense. It's very bizarre, 10 to the minus 38 seconds or something. But, which is very weird because he's trying to use time to measure something when he says time doesn't exist. Very strange part of that book. But the idea is that if you take physics literally, and you take all those laws literally, and you go backwards, there's a point at which time is created. Because the laws of physics come into existence.